want me to do?
You can't do nothing. You can't do nothing. That's what I'm saying. You can't do nothing, big man.
They had to deal with?
Absolutely.
So would your mother be a donkey?
Breakfast at? Where the breakfast? Where the breakfast at?
Breakfast?
Like, for real, bro, y'all tripping.
A few places you was at, I could have pulled up, but I don't think that was gangster. I wanted to come look you in your face like a man and tell you how.
Okay.
Radio shows and podcasts can launch artists into superstardom or completely wreck their careers in just one messy interview. One slip of the tongue, one wrong question, and suddenly the whole internet is clowning you. And when it comes to hip-hop, there's one platform that everybody knows can make or break you: The Breakfast Club. Hosted by DJ Envy, Angela Yee, and of course, the infamous Charlamagne Tha God, this show has become the spot where rap's biggest names pull up. But let's be real, Charlamagne has built a rep for putting guests on blast. He'll ask the most uncomfortable questions, dig into rumors, and even press celebrities in ways that feel less like journalism and more like a setup. Some guests leave that studio regretting they ever sat in that chair. But here's the twist. Every now and then a guest comes through and flips the script. Instead of getting humiliated, they end up shutting down Charlamagne and leaving him looking stuck. Those moments are TV gold, and fans still talk about them years later. So today, we're diving into 7 unforgettable times. The Breakfast Club didn't go Charlamagne's way. These aren't just interviews, these are straight-up showdowns that left the internet buzzing. Get ready, because this list is packed with drama, tension, and jaw-dropping clapbacks. And we're kicking things off with none other than Beanie Sigel. Born Dwight Grant on March 6, 1974 in Philadelphia, Beanie rose up in the late 90s and early 2000s under the legendary Rockefeller Records. He built his name as a hardcore street lyricist with the kind of raw energy that couldn't be faked. Beanie's got that aura. You know instantly he's not the one to play with. And when he sat down across from Charlamagne, he made sure everybody in that studio knew exactly who they were dealing with. When Beanie Sigel pulled up to the Breakfast Club, the tension didn't take long to spark. Charlamagne tried to break the ice, but in his usual messy style, he did it by bringing up a rumor that had been floating through the hip-hop world. Word on the street was that Beanie only reached his level of fame because of Kanye West. And of course, Charlamagne couldn't resist pressing him about it.
I know you say I'm not qualified to speak on it. I'm just observing it, but it just seemed like, loyalty with you lies with who's providing you opportunity. Man.
Here's the backstory. Kanye was once at a dinner spot in Philly, chilling with some friends, when a couple of street dudes slid their chairs up to his table. They told Yes straight up, hand over the chain. Now, Kanye didn't give it up, but those guys didn't walk away either. They just sat there, waiting for the perfect moment. That's when Beanie arrived. He stepped in and let those men know that nothing was about to go down. Beanie literally put himself on the line to protect Ye, but here's the messy part. Over time, that act of loyalty got twisted into something it never was. Instead of respect, rumors started spreading that Beanie was some kind of hanger-on for Kanye. People even whispered about disloyalty and fake vibes, which couldn't have been further from the truth. So when Charlamagne pushed that button during the interview, it was only a matter of time before things boiled over. Instead of letting Beanie fully explain, Charlamagne kept cutting him off, talking over him, and clearly showing he didn't understand the deeper layers of street life. You could see Beanie's patience run thin as the minutes passed.
So don't talk out in that. Cause you know why? Because you not from that cloth.
Well, that's cool. I don't get
you not. That's why you don't understand that. Kanye know that.
Well, I know I'm not qualified to speak on this, but you can understand how people don't think what you're doing is all the way solid.
You might not think that, and you're not qualified, dog.
Finally, Beanie snapped back, raising his voice and making it crystal clear that Charlamagne was out of his depth. He warned him not to speak on things he didn't know about, especially when it came to the dangerous, complicated codes of the street. Beanie's tone wasn't just sharp, it was a straight-up reality check, one that left Charlamagne looking shaky in his own studio. Man, just like with Fredro Starr, who we'll get to later, Charlamagne found himself completely stuck when Beanie Sigel shut him down. Beanie made it crystal clear, if you're gonna press somebody about their past, you better respect where they come from and the knowledge they carry. That moment wasn't just tense, it was powerful. It highlighted the gap between how mainstream media frames these stories and how real street experiences actually go down. But not every guest handles Charlamagne with that same hard-edged energy. Some choose a calmer, almost playful approach, and sometimes that stings Charlamagne even worse. One perfect example, Malone.
This is his debut album, by the way. So, you know, you've heard the mixtapes and everything.
Did you listen to it?
Absolutely not.
Now, Post, born Austin Richard Post, is an American rapper, singer, and songwriter who broke out by mixing hip-hop, rock, and pop into his own sound. Back when he was just 20 years old and still finding his footing in the game, Post got a golden chance to hit the Breakfast Club. For a rising star, that type of exposure is massive. But for Charlamagne, it was just another shot to try and clown a newcomer. Charlamagne wasted no time trying to discredit him, hitting him with one of the most dismissive questions an artist could hear. "Did you even listen to it?" Post, without hesitation, shot back, "Absolutely not." That response flipped the whole vibe instantly. What was meant to embarrass Post ended up making Charlamagne look like the one reaching too hard. And it's wild because the interview didn't even start off messy. In fact, the energy was light in the beginning, since both Post and Charlamagne bonded over their love for the Dallas Cowboys. But as soon as Post opened up about his music and his journey, Charlamagne couldn't resist trying to undermine him. What he didn't expect, though, was for Post to casually brush him off in a way that fans still talk about today. Post Malone's father actually worked as a concession officer for the Dallas Cowboys, something Post was proud of. But Charlamagne saw an opening and started clowning the job title right there on air. The way he laughed at it had Post on defense, and you could tell he wanted to shut down the disrespect quick. Instead of lashing out, Post flipped the moment smoothly. He invited Charlamagne to come to a game, even offering free tickets to the luxury suite box. That move shut Charlamagne up for a second. But of course, he wasn't done poking. When the father angle didn't shake Malone, Charlamagne switched gears and went straight for appearance. At the time, Post was rocking cornrows, and Charlamagne brought up the hot-button topic of culture vultures.
Why I think all white people with cornrows look stupid. But how you a nappy-headed white boy?
I don't know, man. It's the Native American in.
He tried to box Post in, painting him like someone who was mocking black culture, but Post didn't fall for the bait. He calmly explained that he just liked the hairstyle, no gimmick, no mockery, no fake act, just his style. But Charlamagne wasn't stopping there. He even tried to pressure Post into saying the N-word on camera, basically setting him up to ruin his own career. Post refused instantly, calling him out for trying to get him in trouble. That move alone won him a lot of respect, because most people could see the trap a mile away. And when that tactic failed too, Charlamagne took things even lower. He turned to Post's girlfriend, who was sitting right there in the studio. He implied that Post would eventually cheat on her once fame fully hit, playing into the stereotype of celebrity men can't stay loyal.
Whenever you bring your girl and put her in the public eye, it's about 5 guys. She may have only slept with 5 guys in her life. All those 5 guys gonna post on YouTube and be like, I had that.
But Post clapped back, making it clear he wasn't like that. He told everyone straight that he wasn't going to throw away love for temporary flings or industry groupies. The fallout was huge. Fans praised Post for keeping his cool, standing firm, and refusing to let Charlamagne drag him into a scandal. Instead, the whole exchange made Charlamagne look less like a sharp interviewer and more like a straight-up troll. Larry Elder! Now here's where things took a totally different turn, because not every guest walking into the Breakfast Club is a rapper or entertainer. Elder was running for president at the time, and he came through to break down his vision for America. But the second he sat in that chair, Charlamagne treated him like he was some random guy off the street, trying to press him, clown him, and corner him in front of the audience.
Living below the poverty line, you're picking and choosing, saying this was good, but this was bad.
Okay.
The bottom line, they end between the poverty line. But let's move forward.
Well, can I just address that? In 1940, 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. 1960, that number had fallen to 47%. That's a 40-point drop in 20 years. That's the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion for black people in the history of America. Again, well before Brown versus Board of Education, well before the KKK imploded, well before we had race-based preferences. Why? Because it was rare for a black kid to be raised in a family without a father in the home.
Elder started laying out his plan, explaining how he wanted to uplift black voices and push for change in communities. But before he could even finish, Charlamagne was firing question after question, trying to poke holes and make him look foolish. And it wasn't just Charlamagne, it turned into a full-on 2 against 1, with his co-host and another guest backing him up.
You think members of your party are leaning toward fascism?
Define fascism.
Authoritarianism?
Define fascism.
I mean, the rejection of democracy, the rule of law, and equal rights under the law in favor of a strong man, Donald Trump, who...
The energy shifted fast from an interview to what felt more like an ambush. Elder, though, wasn't rattled. When Charlamagne threw out the line about what happens without a father in the home, Elder fired back with sharp responses that showed he came prepared. Every time Charlamagne tried to twist the conversation, Elder had a counter, and that only made Charlamagne more frustrated, pushing him to keep piling on.
She had a fat ass.
Yeah, see that, bro. Hold up, man. Don't talk about Mercedes.
Oh,
like
my bad.
Let's go back to this, dog. Let's respect, because I'm not gonna talk about your sister, your mama, nothing.
Got you.
You know, we need to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the first thing, because I know you do your radio thing, and I respect that. But at the same time, Mercedes is she a female.
Oh, my fault. Yeah, you're right. But she did look good on that cover, though.
Yeah, she look good. That's your opinion. But
then came the biggest clash, systemic racism. Charlamagne pressed him on it, but Elder flat out said he didn't believe it still existed. The tension hit the roof. The back and forth was heated, emotional, and uncomfortable to watch, but it also revealed something Charlamagne wasn't ready for. Elder wasn't folding. At one point, Charlamagne had to turn to his laptop, digging through pre-written notes and questions just to keep up. It was obvious he and his team were scrambling, tossing out talking points like, "Do you think your party leans toward fascism?" The debate dragged on, but instead of Charlamagne exposing Elder, it ended up flipping on him. Fans later said it almost looked comical, like the whole Breakfast Club crew was outmatched in their own studio. That interview with Larry Elder left no doubt Charlamagne showed the world his limits when it came to politics and bigger world issues. Elder's sharp comebacks made it crystal clear Charlamagne wasn't as versatile as he wanted people to believe. But if you think that was awkward, wait until you hear about the time Master P checked him live on air. Back in the day when Master P and Mercedes were promoting music together, they rolled through the Breakfast Club to push their latest work. It should have been a straightforward promo stop. But in true Charlamagne fashion, he couldn't resist stirring things up. Instead of focusing on the music, he zeroed in on Mercedes' album cover for Rear End, which showed her leaning over the hood of a classic car. And then came the reckless comment. Charlamagne laughed and said something along the lines of, "Everybody's dropping music except Mercedes," before adding, "She got a fat ass though." That line stopped the whole room cold. Instead of asking a serious question, he basically sexualized her in front of the world, live on air. Master P wasn't having it. He snapped back immediately, putting Charlamagne in his place with no hesitation. He made it clear that nobody was going to disrespect Mercedes like that, not on his watch. You could see the tone shift instantly. Charlamagne, usually the one controlling the energy, got hit with a reality check so sharp that he had no choice but to fall back. From that moment on, Charlamagne stayed quiet and humble for the rest of the interview. It was one of those rare times where his antics backfired so badly he had to eat his words. And fans didn't miss it either. Many pointed out how his comment exposed a bigger issue in the industry: women constantly being objectified instead of respected for their craft. Master P checking Charlamagne wasn't just about that one interview, it sent a message. If more people call out the disrespect, the culture itself shifts, creating space for artists and women to actually be respected. But of course, Charlamagne didn't stop there. When he wasn't making sexist remarks or pushing racially charged questions, he sometimes took it even further, digging into people's private lives and trying to expose their sexual history. And not everyone let that slide quietly. Enter Fredro Starr. Fredro Starr, real name Fred Lee Scruggs Jr., is an American rapper and actor, best known as a member of the hardcore group Onyx.
He's got a reputation
radio station. Cause you know why? I know it was an ambush.
You got ran off your own block.
I don't know what them guys had planned, so I had to get out the way.
You got ran off your own block, man. It's all good, though.
It happens. It happens to the best.
Big man, playing a guard. My name is Fredro Starr. Do your good.
Let's move on.
Raw energy, both in his music and his personality. So when he pulled up to the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne thought it would be clever to bring up an old rumor about Fredro hooking up with singer Brandy. But that move blew up in his face instantly. The second Charlamagne mentioned Brandy, Fredro's whole vibe shifted. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't laughing, he was heated. Instead of letting Charlamagne control the moment, Fredro clapped back hard, reminding him of the time 50 Cent punched him in the back of the head. The studio went tense as Fredro pressed him harder and harder, making it clear he wasn't playing games. Things escalated fast. Fredro stood up, leaning into Charlamagne, his voice sharp and energy explosive. In that moment, Charlamagne's usual confidence disappeared. He went silent, looking like he wanted no part of what was about to happen. Fans watching could see it plain as day. Charlamagne was scared. The other hosts scrambled to calm things down, trying to steer the conversation away from the altercation. But the damage was already done. Charlamagne's inexperience showed, and the reckless way he tried to poke Fredro nearly got him into a real fight live on air. If he hadn't backed down as quick as he did, that interview could have turned into one of the wildest studio blow-ups ever caught on camera. And just when you think things couldn't get more controversial, another guest, comedian Monique, pulled up with her own bombshell story that had the entire entertainment industry buzzing. When comedian Monique clashed with Netflix over her pay, she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was standing up for the equality of Black women in entertainment. But instead of backing her, Charlamagne used his platform to tear her down. He went as far as giving her the infamous Donkey of the Day segment on The Breakfast Club, claiming she wasn't on the same level as other comedians like Amy Schumer or Dave Chappelle. That jab stung, and it sent waves of negativity her way at a time when she was already battling Hollywood giants.
And then you give me a title of Donkey of the Day. Is your mother still alive?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're from what city in South Carolina?
Moncks Corner, South Carolina.
Moncks Corner. And if I was to call your mother or your grandmother, could they tell me stories of inequality that they had to deal with?
Absolutely.
So would your mother be a donkey?
No.
Would your
Monique made it clear she felt lowballed, disrespected, and deeply hurt, not just by Netflix, but also by Charlamagne and the way his show piled onto her struggle. Fans were quick to call out the double standard, and Monique herself checked him directly, famously asking, "Would your grandmother be a donkey of the day, Charlamagne?" That question cut through everything, showing just how cheap and unnecessary his insults really were. Later, during an interview on Club Shay Shay, Monique spoke with grace and power, breaking down the discrimination she faced and why she took the stand she did. With her fans and family applying pressure, Charlamagne had no choice but to circle back with an apology.
Behind the scenes, and they tried to explain why Monique didn't get the money that Amy, Dave, and Chris. It didn't matter what the conversation consisted of. Just know, as I just said, Monique sued them and they settled. So there clearly was some validity to the, okay? And she's right when she speaks on the power of the microphone, because people from Netflix were definitely reaching out.
At first, it sounded reluctant, like he was just trying to quiet the backlash. But as the noise grew louder, he eventually gave a more genuine apology, admitting that maybe he went too far. Still, looking at the long list of wild interviews, you'd think Charlamagne would have learned his lesson by now, but you'd be wrong, because up next came another guest who gave him a history lesson he'll never forget. Vi, linked to HTC's VR and AR innovations, showed up ready to talk tech and the future. But Charlamagne couldn't resist pulling the race card again, making one of his infamous comparisons about racism in America. His words came off dismissive, almost like he was turning centuries of Black struggle into a joke. That's when Vi flipped the script, hitting him with cold, hard history.
I'm not.
He was an abolitionist in his own time. He was the second president of the United States. He did not own slaves on principle. Not only that, he actually fought for the liberation of slaves.
He reminded Charlamagne about early American leaders like John Adams, who didn't own slaves on principle and even fought for their liberation. It was a clapback wrapped in education, and it left Charlamagne scrambling once again. It's crystal clear by now, Charlamagne lives for stirring the pot. He digs into his guests' private lives, pushes buttons that don't need to be pushed, and thrives off the chaos that follows. The way he constantly tries to get under people's skin shows just how little respect he has for the boundaries or the dignity of the folks sitting across from him. And yet, the ratings keep climbing. That's the crazy part. His messy tactics keep drawing viewers in, which might explain why he keeps doubling down on the controversy. But here's the real question. How long can he keep this up before it all blows up in his face? One wrong guest, one miscalculated jab, and Charlamagne could find himself in a situation he can't laugh his way out of. Fans are already debating whether these wild interviews are authentic or if they're partly staged just to keep the numbers high. What do you think? Is Charlamagne a fearless interviewer or just a shock jock chasing clout? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what side you're on. And before you go, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next big scandal. Trust me, the drama never sleeps, and we'll be right here breaking it all down for you. See you in the next one, and don't click away just yet, because the next video popping up on your screen is packed with even more celebrity drama you don't want to miss.